Good afternoon, everybody. I really hope you're well. We are doing an instructor help special in the VIP group today, all for chair adaptations for your fitness Pilates. So I know a lot of you who teach fitness Pilates want to be able to cater for many, many, many different types of people. And adaptations is one of my favorite things to do. Whether or not that's a harder adaptation or an easier adaptation or just a positional adaptation. So I'm doing today a chair adaptation, which may be suitable for lots of different types of clients, people who may be not able to come down to the floor, people who might want more of a home workout to do at their desk and not have to get their mat out and that kind of thing. And essentially also any type of client who might be recovering from an illness or an injury. So if you're joining me on the live, let me know. I'll be more than happy to have a chat. Hello, Facebook user. Who is that's just said morning? I'll need you to update your StreamYard. Let me have a little look and see who that is, because it never shows me. Here we go. Isabel. I just need you to update your StreamYard for me, my lovely. Okay, so fitness Pilates is amazing in that way that it can be just so adaptable with regards to standing exercises, with regards to chair-based exercise. Obviously, if we're thinking about working our way through our fitness Pilates class, your preparation phase can very, very simply be done in a seated format. So if we think about the fundamentals of fitness Pilates, our ABC, we would normally do our setup at the start of the class. So I'm going to do your setup seated. So still the same thing. We can have our feet together. Let me actually take my socks off because I've got black socks, black leggings and a black mat, and I want you to be able to see my feet. So let me just move that down slightly. Couple of options that we could do. We can still keep the feet together if you wish. Turn the toes out to the corners of the room. Realign your heels with your toes. That still will bring your feet into that kind of hip distance position. Feet flat down onto the floor. All right. So we don't want clients sitting with their legs crossed or anything like that. We want to keep them really nice and even. Or you could go second and middle toe in line with your knees and in line with your hips. Center those feet. And then as you're coming up through the body, slightly different here, because obviously it's going to be harder to put tension into the muscles. Obviously, we've got the knees bent, which is great. So think about the even distribution of the weight between the right and the left foot. Spread the toes. And then I want you to sit up onto the chair. So I don't want you to slouch back. And we can still find our neutral spine position from here. So if I turn side on, you'll be able to see me. I'm going to rock that pelvis forward and back. So forward and back and through, and just being aware of that little rock there in my pelvis, all the way forward, point A, all the way back, point C. I can still find my point B here. So I can still find my neutral spine. I can still think about activating the muscles in my bottom, but I've got to sit up to do that. So really kind of get that awareness going on with regards to the muscles in the butt. And then pull up tall through the rest of the body. Let the shoulders come up, down, and away from your ears. So you absolutely still can go through that A. Our B can be exactly the same with our breathing. So breathing and holding on to the sides of the ribs, breathing into the rib cage. Feel your rib cage expand, breathe out, feel your rib cage move back in. And we're just allowing the abdominals with this to get that connection. So we're breathing in, feeling that connection in the abdominals as we exhale. So when we exhale, we're activating, inhaling, and we can just feel that breath move through the body. Feeling the ribcage move laterally and getting that diaphragmatic breath with it. And then I'll see our centering as we're standing would normally come through the feet. It still comes through the feet when you're seated. So we can absolutely still do our ABC from here. And then when you're thinking about your warm up, your preparation kind of warm up moves, you could still release the neck in a seated position, relax the hands. You can still take that head from the right to the left. You can still do all of your shoulder release work, lifting and lowering the arms, opening and closing the chest. We could still do a swoop and a stretch, head down, chin to chest, head back, open up and through. You could still do your rotations, whether or not you keep the body facing forward or you turn and look back. I would definitely recommend, if possible, chairs without handles, arms, because they're going to get in the way a little bit. We could then still laterally bend, reach the hand from right to left here and taking that arm over as you're pressing away. And then we could spine twist still. And obviously this could be our seated spine twist if we wanted to put this into our main section, main phase of our exercises. You could do that with your arms extended. You know that I like to take the palms up, so like getting more of a retraction through the shoulder blades, but you could do it with your palms down or your palms facing you as you're going through. So you could still do all of those, still reach back on the diagonal. So opening up the chest, reaching the arms forwards, and from here. And then moving down into the lower body. So bringing the foot forward, we can do our point and flexes, just like we would do if we were standing, rotating the ankle in both directions. And obviously you would do that with both sides. We can then take a little brush. So moving the knee then in flexion and extension, as we would do with standing. Then taking the leg out and in. So very similar to our diagonal brush across the body. We could do a knee float, lifting and lowering. We could do that with the opposite arm coming up, or we could do it same arm, same leg, lifting here. You could take both arms up to make that harder with that knee float. And you could also take that leg open and close to get a little bit of rotation into the hip, opening and closing here. So really, really simply to be able to get that body really nice and warm. You've got your hip movements, your knee movements, your ankle movements. Now, if you're thinking about a roll down, we could do it seated. So you're coming up, rolling down, chin to chest, hands come onto the thighs. You're going to create a flat back stretch. I will show this from a side profile as well. And then we can roll up vertebrae by vertebrae. So let me show you that from a side profile. We're here. I'm going to lift, inhale, exhale, come through, stretch that back, and then lift up. Now you could also do a chair-based cat stretch, cat to cow. So hands to the thighs, and then we're here in our cat to cow, and then rolling up and through. So now if we think about some exercises, and I want to show you some stuff with some equipment as well. So I'm just going to grab activation band. I'm going to grab a weight, very light weight, and I'm going to grab the ball. So we could do all of our warm-up moves with the mini ball in between our thighs to get some activation going on through the inner thighs and through pelvic floor. Okay, so that could be great to do throughout the workout, throughout the preparation phase. We could also do all of that with the activation band around the thighs, pressing against that activation band, getting again that connection with the legs. They're going to warm up a lot more from here, and we've got that strong position. So if I then start to think about main moves coming through into our kind of main class, we might want to do a seated Superman variation. So we could keep the activation band on, and we could do our seated Superman. So focusing on here, coming through, and we could move out on the diagonal. It's going to be hard to move back because obviously the chair's in the way. So we could bring it to the sides. We're still getting activation through the outer thigh, through the bottom, like we would do if we were down on the floor on all fours. You could come up and open, back and down, lift up and open, back and down. So that could be a great variation of your Superman. You could have a weight in the hand, very similar to what I was doing in the holistic core this morning. And we could bring the knee to the weight and then open out. Stronger abdominal exercise, stronger back exercise as well. And you could do your Superman staying on one side there, which is absolutely fine. If we're then thinking about our other moves that we maybe do on all fours, thread like a needle. We could definitely do thread like a needle with the mini ball back in between the thighs or your activation band on the thighs. Inhale, lift, exhale, roll down, hands to thighs, and you're here. Taking one hand to the head, and then we're going to thread the elbow through the supporting arm and then look up to the ceiling. So we're lifting and lowering, up and down. We could obviously extend the arm and thread through the gap. So the ball between the thighs is keeping my legs in alignment, but also activating through the inner thighs and pelvic floor. So I could 100% do my thread like a needle there. Then if I'm thinking about my prone exercises, laying down onto the floor, like a back extension, first of all, let me just turn side on so you can see me. Taking the ball back behind, you can start to retract like we do when we're laying on our front in a back extension, pulling that ball back past our bottom. We've got the option to be able to do that there. We could also pulse the arms to fire up the arms a little bit more, which could be really, really effective. We could put the ball in between the thighs and do our VW. You could also do this with a band in the hands, thumbs going backwards, squeezing and retracting those shoulder blades in that seated format. Now, the other thing that you could do is you could do that with a bit of a swim kick, but your swim kick is coming forward instead of going backwards. Now, that's not a bad thing because now the focus is on strengthening the quads rather than strengthening the glutes and the hamstrings. So just a slightly different workout there. So you could bring that through. We could do our square. Again, we could have either a ball between the knees or an activation band around the thighs. Arms are going to come up here. And then we can start to pull that back into a twist. So pulling back, feeling that opening up of the chest, being aware of how that feels. So you've got that option there of your square that you could do, which we normally do laying prone. So absolutely, you can do all of our kind of really strong work with working through the back. We could go into, if you teach swimming, we could do this. Maybe you need to pop a ball back behind you just for a little bit of support. And then taking, again, you could take the leg forward and the other arm back. And then you're in that position there, activating through the back, but also activating through the abdominals. Then if I think about our side-lying moves that we would do in fitness Pilates, we have got side-lying leg abduction, side-lying leg rotation, we've got scissors, and we have also got our open door. They're our kind of main base moves. So if we're thinking about our first two, side-lying leg abduction and leg rotation, both of these could be done with the activation band on. Place it around the thighs. We're going to take that leg up and we're going to open and close. The hands could come away, so you're getting a little bit more abdominal work. Hands could come across the chest. You could put a ball back behind your clients if you wanted to. So that could be your leg abduction. You could take the leg up and then take the other arm, open and close here as well. So your leg abduction, working the outer thigh, outer part of the bottom. And you could do this without the band as well. Lifting the leg up, leg rotation, and go the other way. And those of you that teach more classical Pilates, if you do kind of single leg circle, this or one leg circle, again, this could be your variation. Lifting the leg up. Again, the hands could come away, come across the chest if you wanted to. You could be there. And again, that could all be done without the activation band. You could also hold the ball here, doing your circles, and the other way, working through. So definitely you could do those. Scissors, we could either, again, hold the ball into the hands and just scissor kick the legs forwards. You could take the ball back behind and hold the chair, lifting up. So let me just show you this from maybe a bit more of a side profile so you can see. And you could do your scissors, leaning back onto the chair. That's super tough. Lifting and lowering. So you've got the option, you could definitely do your scissors there, getting that really strong core connection. Or it could be that you put the ball back behind and just scissor one leg up and down. Again, lean back on the ball, get that activation through the tummy. You could do it with a flexed foot, a pointed toe, Mary Poppins feet with the heels in, the toes out, or naughty toes, toes coming in, heels coming out. So you could do a single leg scissor as well. Then we've got our side lying open door, which really is for our mobility of our back and for our chest. So if we bring the hands forward, I'm going to rotate back. This would be like the going around the head like a rainbow, opening and closing. Now, if there was a range of movement issue, we could instead just open door, like we do down on the floor, or staying on one side like we do down on the floor. We could then bow and arrow if that was better into that twist. So all of our base moves that we do in fitness Pilates, side lying absolutely could be done in a seated position. When we're seated as well, obviously we've done our spine twist, really, really valuable. But our roll back that we would normally do with our clients sitting on the floor, you could either just do a little roll back onto the ball, not arching over, tucking the pelvis forward with the ball back behind, which could be enhanced by an arm lift, whether that be single or whether that be double. You could also do that with the arms coming out to the sides. And you could come back into a bow and arrow, into a twist. Or you could use a long band like you would do down on the floor and put the long band underneath the feet, hold on to the ends, and then coming back and lifting up again to get that movement through the spine, lifting and lowering. So absolutely you could do those there. Now, your supine exercises are probably your most challenging because obviously we would normally be laying on our back and it's very hard to get that kind of same engagement going on through in a seated position, but it's not impossible. So if we think about putting the ball back behind us, we could do our single leg slide, sliding the leg away, taking the arm overhead, whether that be opposite arm to leg, whether it be same arm, same leg, or double arm. Yeah, you absolutely can. We could take a tap, but instead of a tap down, we're going to tap up. Yeah. So we're here in our taps. Again, we could add in arms for this. The arms could come out to the side. So we're going to tap, alternating, pushing back onto the ball, getting that engagement happening there as well. Yeah. Or staying on one side and tapping. Again, you could maybe move your taps. So 1, 2, 3, and back. 1, 2, 3, and back. We can take a knee drop. So lift, open, back and down, just like you would be up in tabletop. You've got your single knee drop. Down on the floor, we often do this with a pec fly. So lift, So I'm tapping into coordination here, ball back behind me, and I'm doing opposite arm to leg. I could also do both arms, staying with that single leg, lifting and lowering, still be really valuable, working really, really strong. Shoulder bridge is probably going to be your most complex move to try and put in a seated position. But if you think about the purpose of a shoulder bridge, the purpose is always spinal mobility. Yes, there's an element of glute engagement. Yes, you're working through your back, you're opening up your hip flexors, but primarily the main purpose of shoulder bridge is spinal mobility. So again, it could become more like your seated roll down or your seated cat to cow, still getting that spinal mobility. So ball could go through and we could be here. So instead of thinking about trying to replicate the move completely, we could just make it our seated cat to cow or seated roll back, roll down, which would be beneficial from there. Knee roll, double knee roll is going to be a bit more challenging, especially if your clients aren't that strong. I mean, if they can lift both legs off the floor and they can take a little bit of a twist of the knees, that would be amazing, but not everyone can do that. So if we're thinking about our spinal mobility, primarily your knee roll, being for spinal mobility and oblique engagement, we're going to need to change this a little bit for them. So we could focus then on back to our spinal mobility happening through the spine twist. We could change legs slightly. So move the legs to the side. And again, that will change the dynamic of what's happening in the back. Maybe getting a little bit more engagement in the obliques. The work for the obliques could be more like your lateral bend, and the ball can stay between the thighs, or you can have activation band on in the thighs, or you could do that with your lightweight and you could take that down. So that's getting that obliques. Sometimes we have to think a bit outside the box. We have to think, right, okay, what's the purpose of the move? How could I then keep that purpose the same? But obviously I'm going to need to change the exercise. So absolutely you could do those. Again, I mean, all of your seated exercises that we normally do with the ball seated down onto the floor, you could do. So my seated 100, breathing in for 5 beats, breathe out for 5 beats, turn the hands over. I could still do that with a leg extension or a knee float, and then change the legs over. Breathe in for 5 beats, breathe out for 5 beats. You could still do all of those. Little Russian twist that we sometimes do when we're seated back on the ball. We can put all of that in there as well, which would be really, really effective for your clients. So all of the base moves that we do in Fitness Pilates absolutely could be done within the chair. And then if you're thinking about your stretch, your relaxation, anything like that, then we can stretch using the chair, coming over, opening up the sides. You can take that into a twist through the back, holding onto the back of the chair. You could use your band to stretch out the calf muscles, point and flex, turning the toes inwards, turning the toes outwards, or just keeping it neutral and getting the hamstring stretch. So you can take that there. Inner thigh stretch, either with the band, opening out from there, or it could be that you keep the foot down on the floor and you shift the body weight forward. So opening up the inner thigh, that might be effective for some clients. Stretching out the outer thigh and bottom. Ideally, we could take that leg over and do a little gentle push, shift the body weight over if possible. If not, pull that knee in and twist. And that could be your outer thigh and bottom stretch for your clients. Obviously, we can stretch out through the back, round through the shoulders, the chest opening up from here, the tricep with the gentle lean, the biceps and the forearms, shoulders as you're coming through, Quads and hip flexors are the most challenging, okay? So if your clients can't come out of the chair, then pulling the knee back and pulling the foot towards the bottom is really the only thing they're going to be able to do to get a bit of a stretch in the front of that thigh. Otherwise, alternatively, if you can get them up out of the chair, one foot on, then you're going to tilt the pelvis forward and back, and then stay forward, tuck forward, and then lean back. And that's going to give them that stretch in the hip flexors and in the quads, which can be really effective. You can lift the arm up, lean over slightly as well, and that's going to get that deeper stretch. If they can come out of the chair, you could also use the chair for the hamstrings, pulling the toes to you, leaning over as far as you want to. You could use the chair as well to stretch out through the back, coming into like your child's pose, or stretching out the chest, turning the body round, opening that up and through. You could use the chair for your calf stretch in a standing position, changing over, and of course, your quad stretch if they can take that foot into the hand. It is a little bit more tricky with clients who really can't come out of the chair from there. But I hope that's given you lots and lots of ideas of how you could take any of those base moves from Fitness Pilates and put them into chair-based exercise. We've got the full qualification, seated and standing certification on choreography to go. So if you want to get certified to specialize in chair-based Fitness Pilates or standing-based Fitness Pilates, then absolutely you can get the certification on choreography to go. And you don't have to film an assessment or anything. You literally work your way through the videos, and you'll get your certificate, to say your CPD has been achieved. Any questions, gang, just let me know. Otherwise, I really hope that's been helpful and beneficial. And please let me know that you, if you've got any questions. No problem. Absolutely, Isabel. That's absolutely fine. No probs. All right. Take care, gang. Thanks so much. See you soon.